Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Nufftingz Speaks with your host, Nufftingz. Today I want to talk about something that had me thinking for the last little while. This isn't a Pokemon Go video. This isn't a gaming video. This isn't me ranting about some company making a stupid decision. This is one of those episodes where life throws something at you and it makes you stop and think. As I've gotten older, I've noticed something very strange. People remember me differently than I remember myself. Now, before anybody gets carried away, this isn't me saying I'm some celebrity or some special person. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that over the last few years, I've had old friends, old relationships, old acquaintances, and even people I haven't spoken to in years randomly pop back into my life. And every single time it happens, I walk away thinking the same thing. Wait, that's how you remember me? Because when I think about my own life, I don't think about all the good things. I think about the mistakes. I think about the opportunities I missed. I think about the times I could have done better. I think about the relationships that didn't work out. I think about the things I wish I could go back and change. That's where my mind goes. But recently, I've been hearing stories from people who knew me years ago, and it's like they're talking about a completely different person. They're remembering conversations I forgot. They're remembering moments that meant nothing to me at the time, but apparently meant something to them. They're remembering details I couldn't remember if you paid me. And it got me thinking, how many of us spend our entire lives judging ourselves by our worst moments while everyone else remembers us for completely different reasons? Think about that for a second. Every person you've ever met has a version of you living in their head. Your parents have one version, your children have another, your friends have another, your coworkers also have another. The people you've helped have another. The people you've argued with have another. The people who cared about you also have another version of you. And none of those versions are exactly the same. The weird thing is that we usually only focus on our own version. The version where we know every mistake we've ever made. The version where we know every insecurity. The version where we know every bad decision. The version where we know every regret. But nobody else sees that version. They only see the parts of us that touch their lives. And sometimes these are parts that we completely overlook. I've had people tell me stories recently that genuinely shocked me. Not because the stories are unbelievable, but because I had forgotten them. Meanwhile, the other person remembered every detail. And that's when I started realizing that maybe we're all carrying around a very unfair image of ourselves. I know I do. Anybody who watches this channel knows I'm hard on myself. I joke about it all the time. I call myself a loser. I make fun of myself. I talk about mistakes I've made. I focus on what I could have done better. And there is nothing wrong with self-reflection. Self-reflection helps us grow. But there is a difference between self-respect. Oh my gosh. But there is a difference between self-reflection and self-punishment. One helps you improve. The other convinces you you're not enough. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap. I know I have. Now, here's where things get really interesting. As I've gotten older, I've noticed that people from my past don't always remember what I did. They remember how I made them feel. That's the part that sticks. They don't remember every conversation. They don't remember every detail. They remember whether you made them laugh, whether you listened, whether you showed up, whether you were kind, whether you were there during a difficult moment. And sometimes they remember those things long after you've forgotten them. I've also learned something else. Sometimes the people who criticize us the most still remember us. Think about that. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the people who claim they don't care about you can't stop talking about you? They keep bringing you up. They keep mentioning your name. They keep following what you're doing. At first, I used to think that meant I was doing something wrong. Now I think it simply means I left an impression. Not always a good one, not always a bad one, but an impression nonetheless. And that's a part of life. Not everybody is going to love you. Not everybody is going to hate you. Most people are just going to remember a version of you that existed during a specific chapter of their life. And that chapter might have meant far more to them than you ever realized. The older I get, the more I realize that life isn't really about perfection. It's about impact. It's about the memories we leave behind. It's about the conversations people remember years later. It's about the moments that seemed ordinary to us, but became important to somebody else. And honestly, that's kind of beautiful when you think about it. Because most of us walk around believing we're insignificant. Most of us walk around believing nobody remembers. Most of us walk around believing we don't matter. But then every now and then, life reminds us otherwise. Somebody remembers. Somebody cared. Somebody was paying attention. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the lesson isn't that we're amazing. Maybe the lesson is that we're not nearly as terrible as we sometimes convince ourselves we are. So if you take anything away from today's episode, let it be this. Be careful how you talk about yourself. Because the version of you living inside your own head is not the only version that exists. Somewhere out there, people remember your kindness, your humor, your loyalty, your friendship, your support, your presence, and maybe that's worth remembering too. Anyways, that's all for today's episode. If you've ever had somebody from your past come back into your life and remind you of a version of yourself that you had forgotten, let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, this is Nufftingz Speaks, real conversations, no filters.
Another late night chasing down the light for the grind that Nufftingz has to fight against the voices in the static and the noise, finding my own truth and my own voice, 'cause we are the Nufftingz army, strong and true. We're breaking through.